Hi, my name is Alvin Jared Aguda, and today I'll be talking about how video games do not make you violent. So, did you know that according to the company of Gaming, that there are 2.2 billion gamers in the world? Well, when people think of video games in general, what do you mainly think of? People mainly think of like fun and competitive, like, gameplay with your friends, family, and stuff like that. However, not a lot of people actually think that way. Unfortunately, there are some people who associate like video games with bad and like violence when it comes to reality. And honestly, that's just not the case. So, all I'm going to be talking about today is how video games do not make you violent because there are multiple studies disproving the statement, and video games have more positive benefits than you realize. I chose this topic mainly because I always hear this topic pop up when I talk to my like family members and like some of my friends about how they say video games are either good for you or bad for you, but mainly in the bad area. And usually they're quick to assume that because of what we hear or what we see on the news media today, how pretty much all the bad stuff are coming out from video games and all the like worst and negative aspects come with it. Pretty much they just associate that with video games. And as a person who played video games for like my majority of life, I think I would argue for how video games do not make you violent. So I will go over why you shouldn't believe all the articles saying video games cause violence because they're unreliable sources and there's no emerging resources claiming these. And also number two, how video games would have more positive benefits than you realize, including helping challenging the brain's cognitive functions and teamwork and social skills. So, video games should not be viewed as bad, if anything. It should mainly be seen as a tool in which people can actually be positively, they can benefit from. So, you should not believe statements that video games correlate to violence because there's not enough valid information for this to be true. According to the article, The Problem of False Positives and False Negatives in Violent Video Game Experiments by Christopher J. Ferguson. It mainly talks about how violent video games usually appear to particularly be prone to false positive results. What this means is it's talking about how pretty much we can't really immediately believe these false statements. When they write these articles and stuff like that, they mainly talk about how or they mainly focus on the bad things rather than like less of the good things, which is what they're mainly trying to do to make sure that they get their main point across. So they're not actually getting a full synopsis of like an actual detail of whether it's either the good or the bad part. There's also forms of publication biases for this topic as well. In the same article, Ferguson talks about how if playing violent video games in real life can be correlated with aggressive behavior and similar effects are seen due to random assignment to a violent video game condition in laboratory experiments, it is thought that this provides evidence of a causal link between the video game violence and aggressive behavior. Essentially what it means there is it confirms how easy it is to pretty much link something that's a little bit similar from two different aspects of feelings and actions just to validate one argument, which is pretty much what they're trying to do here. And this is why I think that video games, this is pretty much why video games should not be viewed as bad. If anything, it should also be seen as a tool in which people can positively benefit from. In the article, Yes, Video Games Are Good for Your Mind and Body, Vince Matthews gives us great examples of how we can be immensely benefited through playing video games, such as how the Nintendo Wii when we play that, it also helps our hand-eye coordination. If you play any type of first-person shooters, it helps develop a better perception of color contrast. And just at a young age, preschoolers, when they play video games, they develop fine motor skills. Another benefit of playing video games is that it increases efficiency and teamwork. Um, researchers from Young University in the US found newly formed work teams experience a 20% increase in productivity on subsequent tasks after playing video games together for just 45 minutes. What this means is that pretty much another benefit from playing video games is that it also increases efficiency and teamwork. So pretty much it's very important to recognize how we also acknowledge the fact that how video games has also benefited us while also gave us like tools and actions to actually improve ourselves as a person and not just focus on the bad things about what video games has potentially brought us. So I went over why you shouldn't believe all the articles and saying why video games cause violence. I also went over how video games have more positive benefits than you realize. And just remember that video games can mean more than just what people assume it to be. So don't be afraid to pick up a controller and have fun. All right.